Hello, Dave.
So I was eating my blueberries.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yeah.
So can you explain the if you're allowed, the ongoing association with you and blueberries?
It's because the first time that I went to like right when I got hired, we went on an editorial retreat to Atlantic City. And we went to the supermarket because we got like an Airbnb place and to like have our little summit. And we went to an Airbnb place. I went to the supermarket before it, and well, first I ran to get mozzarella cheese, and Joe made fun of me for that, and Ralph. And then when we walked in the fruit section, I just grabbed a bunch of blueberries, like this giant like vat of blueberries, because I've gotten used to eating them like every day. So and then at various times they didn't think that I'd be able to eat them, but I ate them like really fast, and it was like hilarity ensued. Um, and so from that moment on, and then plus when I've come to the office to do work a few times, I've always had blueberries with me.
Are they just, is it like nature's candy, a healthy snack to power the brain, or is that like an ancient like writer's technique? Like Plato, Plato
No,
used to eat blueberries by the handful.
actually, my son is a huge blueberry fan, and I think that got me into them because he ate like a ton of blueberries, and I started eating them along with him, and now I'm hooked. It is nature's candy. I mean, I think it's raisins are the original nature's candy. I hope
That's my
that
go-to.
that 3 people are willing to like the stream to get us up to 90. Seems like we're so close.
Always so close, but yet so far. But I know for a fact that, maybe you got some multiple YouTube accounts that you can log into. Take a quick second, hop over to the second YouTube account, press the
I've been
like on
doing
it.
that the whole time.
You've been going through your 17 different YouTube channels. Just
Wait,
ladies and gentlemen, Dave Wohl is responsible for getting you to the like goal today. Thank you,
I have
Dave.
like a whole bunch of Facebook accounts too that I'm connected to because of various projects that I worked on. Like there was a movie that I worked on, Heavenly Sword, that was like based on this game. And every once in a while, I see like someone likes Heavenly Sword, and I get like a thing about it. Sammy, you could do it. You could create your own channels and just explore. But yeah, so like I could go on my Heavenly Sword account. I could like it, and I mean, I guess that's not ethical, but we don't play by the rules here at Zenescope.
Speaking of playing, I know we did some playing around with the character since our last conversation.
I like that segue.
Thank you. And I wanted to bring up, because when we were having our meeting the past week, I had a name, because we were saying that this character that we're working on is, and kind of a little bit of a recap for us, and I suppose the audience too, is having these gems that are acting as, power sources or the cause for, certain characters' powers or enhanced abilities. And so looking at a character that's directly, and if I'm misspeaking at all, please correct me. But yeah. Looking at a character that's like directly impacted or influenced from, one of these gems, basically getting, the direct source, and being able to do stuff with it.
Right. Yeah. So theoretically, there's maybe someone who had it and was doing some stuff with it, and then this new character that we're coming up with actually is imbuing it, ingesting it, somehow, like it's becoming part of him.
Now do we think, is this something like, because I know we had also talked a little bit about the gems potentially like, having their own MO, like their own agenda, kind of, or like, I went back and I rewatched last month's episode, and we were kind of talking a little bit about the idea of like terraforming. No, Trent, not Steven Universe. Different gems. But the idea of, kind of like a terraforming almost of like, these gems, or whoever's in control of the gems kind of using them for, advanced like recon or like establishing the planet.
Yeah, like the gem has its own purpose that isn't necessarily the purpose that the characters think it is.
Right. So as a result, are we thinking that like this character, and we were talking about possibly having like the character, like you said, get the gem from another wielder. So would you be thinking that like the wielder was corrupted? Like, does the gem have the power to corrupt, I guess?
Yeah, I think it could. I think well, yeah, I mean, it depends whether the person is already corrupt and is just trying to, do bad things with it, or if the person was okay and then the gem sort of twists them as time goes on. Either one of those are possibilities. I know with the Witchblade, we tried to it was based on who the wielder was. I think, like I said last time, like like a bad person could get the Witchblade and do bad things with it. Like it doesn't really. In D&D terms, I would call it chaotic neutral. So it doesn't. Like if a good person was using it, they could do really good things with it as long as they were zealous about the good stuff they were doing. But if a bad person was using it, as long as they were zealous about what they were doing, they could do bad things with it. So like you could take over the world with it if you chose to. 90 likes.
90 likes. Thank you, Ian, the official Zenescope like tracker.
So, but then there could be either way, whatever its purpose is, that we have to determine. Like I could be doing good things, but the end doesn't justify the means, right? Like I could be doing good things not knowing that I'm actually ultimately doing bad things. Like it seems like I'm doing good things, but I'm really clearing the table for whatever this thing wants. I wouldn't worry about that so much now. I feel like it's best, I think, to figure out the little picture and then figure out how the big picture will come out of it.
Gotcha.
So I want to do something that's interesting. And this isn't to say what you're saying is wrong. I'm just saying that like I don't worry about the big picture so much until, and I've gone both ways. I mean, I think that at various times we've come up with like some big high concept first, and then fit the world into it. And other times it's coming with because I think that the key, right, is to make it an interesting character, right? So it's always a bonus to start with something cool, like some of the suggestions that you had, I think are interesting. Now, the one, I guess the people out here don't know the suggestions that you had, because I'm jumping a little bit ahead. Now, we have a character that we created a couple of years ago, that Joe created, as a matter of fact, Divinity, who is light connected. She is employed by a preacher, and she's basically like acting on his behalf, like doing shit, like doing stuff, cleansing people, and then she ends up she's in New Orleans, so she ends up with Mystere's world, and then at the end of that story, she realizes that this preacher guy who raised her was nefarious, and kind of fights him off, and then is figuring herself out. So that is a light related story that we definitely, I feel like hopefully there's a way that we could sort of connect to it, indirectly, but this one definitely would be living on its own. But I totally like, I'm gonna so we had a little bit of a conversation of this off. Oh wait, why don't you explain some of your ideas, and then we can talk about them.
Oh, well, I mean, the thing that I kind of did was I scrambled. I had to go run someplace, so I don't have my notes with me. But
That's okay. I want to hear it off the top of your head.
Oh, okay. I'll shave it off for you. But No, basically we were talking about how the powers themselves were used, but then the other thing was talking about the characters. And I was saying that I think it would be interesting because we were talking about somebody who thinks that they're doing a good thing, but in reality could be doing something not good. And maybe playing into the light aspect of it. I was talking about maybe, an old like fire brimstone preacher type character, like really heavy into, the religion that he's preaching, and kind of, being blinded by that aspect, or even like modernize it and make it, like a preacher, on like the subways or something, some guy that goes between cars, or
I like that.
yeah, like because you could do it like the old school one, like say, however long, and I apologize if we're expanding to the bigger picture again.
I don't know. We'll naturally expand to the bigger picture to make it fit. I'm mainly saying that we don't need to solve the bigger picture yet.
Right.
Like we don't have to think that we're married to anything that we come up with for the bigger picture, but we could do enough bigger picture to service the story.
Yeah. So I was just, whether it's something that's set in the past or whether it's something that's set in the future, I think that there's an opportunity there to use that as kind of like, the profession or the whatever this guy's motivation is. So that's kind of like what I was throwing out.
So his motivation is connected to the gem?
So I was kind of thinking like, here's this guy that's like, preaching, as, say, let's go back to the, Bible, fire and brimstone type guy. And if it's all about, having the light and, let the light within you. And I just think about like those snake, you go to the churches where like the dudes have the snakes and stuff, and they're like smacking you on the head and being like, out, demon, out. And just using that as, like, oh, Nikes, I actually have some powers now. Whatever my perception is, of like, inspiring people or spreading the message, the gospel, whatever.
So who would be a guy? Exorcism could be involved, Mark. It's true. So he could be a guy who is talking about the light, but that's before he gets the thing. Something happens to him, he gets the thing, and now he's got this power that seems like it's from divinely sent.
Yeah, so it's kind of like it's almost like self-fulfilling, like, oh, I've been on this path and now I've gotten this thing. It's a sign to, kind of continue doing this. Or even ramp it up.
Just to throw a separate idea, like going on what we were talking about last time, that he was a low-level criminal or something.
Yes, because I did like that idea. That's the other thing. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Because then it's like Samuel Jackson in Pulp Fiction, who is talking this, who has this that Bible phrase that he uses when he shoots people, but then he ends up getting this like power that seems holy, or that seems like God-given, and then stuff happens. Then he's got to rethink what he's doing, and
no, I do really like that, because when we were talking, I was just commenting on how much I appreciate stories that focus on like the henchman or the goon or just some low level type guy. But you're absolutely right with the Samuel Jackson thing, because that's like he talked about divine intervention, and how Ezekiel 29:17.
I mean, that might be a little too close.
Yeah, we're not that specific one. We're not, Sam Jackson already has plenty of superhero franchises under his name. We don't need to give him another one.
Right. Now, I mean, I don't know if this area is too tread in general, but because again, like Zenescope has done it and I've done it with the darkness. But if it's something like I guess not. I wouldn't want to do like the Italian mafia, but like there's a lot of criminals. I think we have to do some research, and maybe there's some kind of less used criminal group that, I mean, they all seem to incorporate religion a lot into their into like what they do, right? I mean, I guess
Mhm.
so that makes the mafia so perfect, right? As the Godfather sort of set it up, that you know that there's all like this religion connected to what they're doing, and they don't see the hypocrisy of it.
Mhm.
It could be secret societies, but see, I just incorporate Mark's what he's writing as I'm talking, as if they're my
Mhm.
own ideas. Um, yeah, it could be. Well, secret societies is interesting because that actually kind of goes back to the original light wielder story. You know, like like if we connect it to the light wielders that already exist in the Zenescope universe, I mean, they are basically a secret society. So tying that more together could be cool, you know. And again, secret society is the same thing. Like, you know, we don't when I say the same thing, I'm saying that in a vacuum. It's the same thing as the agenda of the gem, right? I mean, there's a secret society. We don't know what their, you know, what their goal is. Um, Again, going back to the darkness, you know, we had the that secret society in there, whose name I can't even remember at the moment. Like the cult
Right.
of the dark. I mean, they were like the so, and we didn't know what their deal was about. Um, so secret societies, I think, are always cool. Um,
And I
Now
mean, that's kind of
this guy, I think the way it would work though would be this guy's definitely not part of a secret society. Like this guy is like a low level like Joe Schlub. You know, I mean, he could be a cool guy like Jackie Estacado was, but even Jackie Estacado was basically just a low level guy who liked to do fun stuff. You know, this guy, I see this guy for some reason like Viggo Mortensen in Green Book.
is
Uh, like so he's just, I mean, not to use like mafia, but just like that, you know, like that, just a guy
yeah,
who's
like
like,
he's kind of he's the that's the driver, right?
yeah, Joe Lunch Bucket.
Yeah, so you know, it kind of like indifferent at first to the situation, just like, hey, it's a job, you know. It's I drive a guy around, I eat the chicken.
Right. Now I mean, we'll do like, you know, that guy's from the 50s or whatever. So or 60s. I don't know, I forgot when that movie takes place. But um so that's I guess less important, right? Like it's just someone who's young, um, kind of unsure of himself, you know, kind of just doing these things. Um, Not really thinking he's a bad guy, but definitely not a good guy. Wait, I'm trying to think of another, like sort of like I'll keep throwing out analogies, kind of like in the beginning of Rocky, right? Like Rocky
Mhm.
is basically just muscle for like, you
Yeah,
know, organized crime guys in Philadelphia. Like he's a good guy, obviously. Like but you know, he's
yeah, he
no,
doesn't want to break your thumbs, but you
that just
know,
that happens to be what he's good at.
exactly. No, I like that. So I think we just so then I think from there you just say like, okay, what is it about like, you know, this cult or this society that attracted this guy? You know, is it a way for him to make money? Is it a way for him to gain
No,
status?
no,
Is it
no, no,
a
no. I don't think the cult attracted him at all. I think I mean, maybe, but I shouldn't say no to you. I'm sorry, but
oh
in
please,
my
no,
head, he like
it's literally in my name, Dave.
in my head he like stumbles into it. Like he's not part of a cult or anything. Like he's just a guy breaking thumbs, you know, or whatever Rocky does, and stumbles upon whatever he stumbles upon. I guess it's sort of like uh, I can't remember. But yeah, just the kind of story where he's not, I don't want him to be part of a like he might get inducted into, not inducted, but he might get like I think that whatever the secret society stuff is, it's like really below the radar, you know. I think that this guy, maybe the person who's using it originally, is in the secret society, you know, like they're doing whatever they're doing. Secret society, I don't know, like I keep saying that, but like whatever they're doing is something like it's not so crazy, you know. They're like robbing banks or, you know, whatever they're doing. Um or something more nefarious. But then somehow this guy gets it, you know, somehow he's like he is in the same proximity as it, and sort of like, I think sometimes I look at what Mark's saying and it makes me think. So sort of
I
like
know.
what
Sometimes I got to put like my blinders on.
I don't want to though. There's something about him that is alluring to the gem. I think that's the sort of slight connection that it is to like Witchblade, you know, connecting to also what I'm hinting here, but you know, some of the stuff that Joe has put into Robin Hood 100, you know, that there's something special about me that for some reason the gem wants to come to me and wants to come to me more than it wants to be with whoever it's with, because it's sentient enough to jump to whoever it thinks could help it get to its goal better. So that's how. So I'm the guy, right? I'm the guy who somehow gets in touch with the gem. Because I'm the guy who somehow gets in touch with the gem, the guy who had the gem has to basically, yeah, I think the gem is sentient. It doesn't have to be sentient like the Witchblade, but it's sentient. It's sentient enough. I think it's kind of, we set it up in Grimm Fairy Tales 50, the one where we go inside the red gem,
Was
drawn by
that
Saint Yak. Or was that the annual? It was one of the two. But
no, I think it was, because speaking of Saint Yak, who just did that,
Masumi.
yeah, Masumi. No, because I read he did the dot. Yeah, no, which looks very good. Go buy it if you haven't.
I don't think it's out yet.
Not yet, but when it is, go buy it. But no,
Yeah,
Saint Yak.
really,
I do think it was the annual.
A really fun
to go inside that.
But Dave kind of set up these whole sentient gems, you know, in his story. And I think, and that's what Joe had talked to us about at the beginning was, you know, kind of making them a bigger thing. So yeah, so I think the gems kind of have their agenda. I think that's what Joe talked about. I like it anyway. I'll push for that no matter what.
No, yeah.
So
but
the
I
gem
absolutely see what you're.
So the gem comes to the person, or maybe it doesn't physically come to the person, but somehow it empowers him. But then the guy who was using it before knows that, I mean, he knows what happened, you know. So he somehow needs to get this guy to do stuff for him. Can't believe I'm.
So it's kind of like I'm gonna use like
the gems have an agenda.
Oh, creepers. Well, actually, no. Now's an excellent time for me to pitch because I wanted to name the guy if he has light-based powers. I wanted to name him first name Phil, last name Lament. Filament.
Okay, I want you and Sammy Sweetly to discuss why these puns aren't working.
I'm telling you, Mr. Miracle is an escape artist, and his name is Scott Free. How do you get out of that trap? Scott Free. You're not impressed.
I'm trying to remember. There were a lot of names like that at Marvel. Like a lot of the names from the 70s were sort of like that.
Yeah, like another one. If you've ever seen the movie Sky High, starring Kurt Russell, there's a supervillain in it, or he's a superpower. His mom is a villain and his dad is a hero, and they named him first name Warren, last name Peace.
Nice.
Warren Peace.
I remember we used to have a joke about when we did this old my friend Mark Siri, who's I've known since high school, who's now like some big wig at Meta. That's the name of the company, right? Yeah, he's like a vice president there or something. He always had this joke about how, like, you know, like someone's in a room and they're like, okay, which one of you has betrayed me? Is it Joe, Frank, or Rancor Deathstrike? like bad villains with bad people names. I remember I tried to put a joke in the Ratchet and Clank movie about like, how could we trust a guy named Dr. Nefarious, but didn't make it past the cutting room floor. I thought it was a good joke. Anyway, so no.
So, okay, understood. That's fine. For someone who doesn't like to say no, that's a very easy one to say no to. That one that wasn't too hard for you. But I absolutely understand. Like, I think I get what you're saying. So it's kind of like,
Yeah,
I don't
that's my
know
point. Dr. Evil is in a spoof movie called Dr. Evil. So that one makes sense.
But like, so basically, like, and I don't know why this analogy is coming to my mind, and I apologize, but this is how I'm trying to make sense. Basically, it's like you got a goat, and everybody's like, "Oh, check out this cool goat! Like this goat eats cans and stuff." And they're like, "Oh, wow, cool! We'll give this goat cans." And so they just keep giving it cans, and then some guy comes along, and like the goat's like, "Meh." He's like, "Oh, whoa, this goat really likes me. Check it out. The goat's doing flips and tricks and shit. Oh, this goat's walking around, and he can, I don't know, poop gold or something." They're like, "Oh, all right, you're the goat guy now because apparently the goat likes you. So we'll have you do or control the goat and have you make the goat do all these crazy cool things." I don't know why I think of a goat, but
it's kind of like that. Yeah, it would be like if the goat, if basically there were like 50 people who the goat wouldn't do anything for, and then this one guy comes along who the goat likes, and the goat starts singing for him or doing tricks for him.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna make a bunch."
The goat analogy is strange, but
I know. Again, I don't know why. I'm just.
It's almost as strange as Casey calling herself the rat girl.
She is the rat girl.
Casey, you know, has... Agenda is growing on me, so maybe that'll be the name of this book.
Casey, for those of you who don't know, got rat tattooed. So Casey found a mouse. Now the mouse is in her hair and it's controlling her.
Yes, like Michigan J. Frog.
Hello, my baby.
If Michigan J. Frog only sang around that one guy, and I guess that is what happens, right? So yeah. Yes, it's sort of like that. But then if Michigan J. Frog, if there was some like producer guy who saw that Michigan J. Frog only sang around this one guy, so this producer guy started making this guy do things for him just because he could get Michigan J. Frog to do things that other people wouldn't do. So so that's the yes, that analogy is similar to the goat.
Dare I say it's better than the goat analogy?
It's maybe a little better, but it's so yeah. So this guy wants to use our guy. Oh, there was a rat girl in Sky High.
I think Casey is confused. She's thinking of the guinea pig. There's a guinea pig. So the thing in Sky High is they're all a bunch of sidekicks. So if you have a crappy power, you get put in the sidekick class. And so one of the girls has the ability to turn into a guinea pig, but just a guinea pig.
So she's the guinea pig girl.
Yes. So Casey is guinea pig girl, but she said rat girl, so she's going to be rat girl now. I hope you're happy.
And not quite. The gem isn't a gem except when around Bob. I guess that's like Michigan J. Frog. But this guy was able to do stuff with the gem before.
Right. Like the goat can, you know, the like, gem has
can. So that goes back to your analogy. I mean, this was already the great white can-eating goat.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little nod to the Great White Man-Eating Shark, one of my son's favorite books. But once it's with this other guy who is like bonded to it, like it's a whole new level of chicanery.
It's like, yo, check it out. This gem and like cut into safe walls and bank vaults and stuff. But then when this guy's holding it, it's like, oh my gosh, look, the gem's shooting lasers and it blasted a hole through that guy's head. It's way better than just breaking into a vault.
Regarding Mark's question, the kid around the gem separated somehow. I would say no, not personally, but something about the lineage of the guy is connected to the gem.
So do we think that it's like a family history type thing, or do we think that it's like there's something inside of him, like, because we were talking, because I'm still not sure what the motivation of the gem is, like the gem's intentions are. So is it latching onto this guy because he has some sort of like lineage, like some like ability that's in him, like genetics, or is it something like, oh, this guy is a good person. I saw into his mind and I see what he wants to do. I or I saw a flashback of him as a little kid not stepping on a bug when he could have. So
there's two paths. Either one of them work. I think that's the next step in what to figure out is like, is this guy like a yeah, is he from the family of goats, the family of goat herders, you know, who have this magical power over goats?
the goat whisperers.
Or is he from this alien race that somehow way back landed on Earth the same time as the goat?
Right.
I mean, just to throw that out there, but so
No,
either
like
of
I say,
those,
it's like, Kryptonite's connected to Superman because they're from the same planet.
right? So, like what Mark was saying, gem origin or during its creation. I don't know about the Merchant family and the creation of Hellraiser. But yeah, that sounds right. The gems were
That's a good question,
created.
Sammy.
I believe the gems. We have to come up with that. But I believe they were created, or if they occurred naturally, somehow they were imbued with whatever their thing is, and that theoretically would go toward what their agenda is. But that's definitely a bigger question too that we need to hammer out.
So I will say I definitely like this like path though for our character. Like I do like him as the Rocky kind of analogy.
I'll need to watch this again to because I have a bad memory.
Well, I no, I like your idea of Rocky.
Luckily, we're on
Rocky's
YouTube.
Yes, I
No,
do. I do.
I remember things from the 70s really well, but stuff that I'm talking about right now, I don't remember the next minute.
We'll cut this up and put it online so you can reference it easier moving forward. But
yeah. Regarding what Sammy's saying too, that yes, it could possibly help to understand why it would want to connect with him. Oh yeah, if once we determine that like what it's about. But like I said, sometimes I work that way and sometimes I work the other way. I think a lot of times when you're writing, you kind of retrofit. It's really like whatever comes to your mind. I think I might have talked about this before, but like when we had assistant editor school, Tom DeFalco would talk about, and when he said it, I made fun of him because it took me years to actually realize that what he said was true. But he talked about how sometimes when he's writing a story, he ends up starting in the middle, like what he thinks is the beginning is really the middle, and I kind of extend that over all aspects of creating a story. Sometimes like you create this germ of something or like a scene or something, and then you kind of build everything around that. So like I kind of like we're talking about this Rocky like thumb breaker guy. It's like it could be cool to figure out what his story could be and then work backwards to figure out what the agenda of the gem is. Like to me, either way is valid and both ways work. So yeah, so a question like, was it a person or spirit god, like we'll come up with.
So from here, it sounds like we need to determine what this guy's agenda is. Why is he doing what he's doing, and how did he get involved with this organization that has access?
The Rocky guy or the guy that wants to use him?
Well, both, I guess, but I think maybe focusing first on the Rocky guy, because if the idea is making the interesting character and then the stuff coming into place, like the creation of the gem and that stuff. But if we find out, who is Rocky and why is Rocky doing what he's doing?
Right. But I think we'll probably need to figure out a little bit. We'll have to do them simultaneously because we'll need to figure out how he's being manipulated. So to me, the Rocky guy isn't again, if I want to compare it to something that I worked on before, right? Jackie Estacado never cared about what the Cult of the Darkness was doing. Like once they tried to manipulate him and they failed, and then they became an enemy of his. So I don't want to do that again, right? Because I don't want to repeat stories. But so in this particular case, we need to figure out, is he a willing participant? I mean, does this guy could this guy promise him like all this stuff if he kind of comes along and then he goes along, because even like we were talking about at the beginning, and going back to what Sammy's saying too, the gem, I doubt the gem wants to be good. I doubt the gem is that sentient that it's like, oh, because that sounds sort of like AI, that sounds sort of like, the gem was created to do something bad, like
I am here to help you.
But then over time it realized that it shouldn't. I think whatever the gem was created to do, it does. But I think we're not going to be following the story of who created it, I mean, maybe eventually. But for now, it's just the people who understand what it does enough to do bad things with it. And the gem isn't averse to doing whatever they want done. So yeah, I think we need to figure out that goal. Like the gem is like, for the sake of this story, the gem is just sort of a weapon, right? It's a weapon that could also do good things, but it's just a weapon. The crystal shard from Forgotten Realms. I'd have to look at what that is.
That's the restaurant you go to and you put on a hat and you watch people joust.
So I guess the Rocky guy could want to move up in the society to achieve his agenda. I mean, I wouldn't be averse to that. It's just like because I'll think about something like when we start talking about it, right? I'm sure everyone who is listening right now, and Noah and me, all come up with what we want. Like the second something pops into your mind, you kind of think about, this is the way it should be because this is the way I thought of it. So sometimes like when I hear another suggestion, my first instinct is like, well, no, you're wrong. I mean, I try not to say that, but and because I know that that's not the right answer. Like that's part of doing this collaborative kind of thing. Is to truly collaborate, right? And but I understand it because I've been doing it for so long that, and maybe I'm speaking for other people. I don't know if that's what everyone's thought is, and maybe I'm just a dick, or maybe I'm just a dick and this way. But so I know that that the first instinct is to think that your idea is better, at least in my case. But then it's to just be open-minded about what people are suggesting, because really doing the best story is what's important. So that's what I try to work toward. And that's why it's interesting doing this method, right? Like how I can't stop looking at the comments.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, Ian, that's exactly what I'm saying. The gem doesn't really care on the how, just that its end goal is met. Whether good or bad doesn't really matter to them. Yeah, good or bad doesn't matter to them because it's not good or bad to them. It just is.
It's a human, good and bad is a human concept. The gem does.
That's right.
So
do.
Isn't
that what Yoda says too?
Do or do not. No try. Something like that.
Maybe the monolith from 2001. That's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah, actually, a little more. I guess I'm trying to remember because the monolith affects people in a certain way.
The monolith was like advancing humankind. So it's like monkeys into humans, humans into giant god babies. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, so in a way, it's sort of like that. It's not it doesn't take over people's minds though, at least not in the way I think about it now. Maybe it could. We could definitely explore that.
Yeah, so next episode, because we're officially out of time. I see Jason's getting ready in the background.
Is he going like this?
He's fixing his bow tie and giving us a thumbs up. That's normally the signal. But next time when we come back, and thank you again so much, David, for jumping on and taking the time. I know you had some stuff going on today, so I just want to let you know that I appreciate you jumping on and taking the time. And what?
And
you. Oh, you. I owe you.
I appreciate you.
Thanks. I appreciate you. So next episode, we will talk about the wielder, or I should say the current person in possession of the stone, the
Yeah.
guy who then reacts to the stone, and then finally, if possible, the stone itself.
Yes.
All
Not
right.
necessarily in that order.
Wherever it happens. No, your comment about the middle of the story, I like that. Locking that one away. But all right, David.
DeFalco.
What's up?
Thank Tom DeFalco.
Thanks, Tom DeFalco. All right, David. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks everybody
thank you,
for your
everyone,
comments.
for
I
listening.
appreciate it. Sorry, I'm
All
talking right over you over and over again.
I'm just so excited to talk about comics, David. You don't understand. If we could keep this going for like another 2 hours, I'd be stoked. Forget mowing the lawn. Let's just talk comics.
Happy Memorial Day.